Can you imagine what'll happen when two of the most terrifying supernatural villains are pitted against an iconic hero? We're talking about the metal-clawed Freddy Krueger versus the masked Jason Voorhees versus the chainsaw-armed Ash Williams. These three epic characters, two baddies and a savior, from three different film franchises, were supposed to feature in a slasher movie together, but to the dismay of gore lovers, that didn't see the light of day. But why? Well, that's what we're here to tell you, so let's get going, shall we? But here's a little introduction into the three characters. Meet Jason Voorhees, the machete-wielding psychopath killer of the Friday the 13th horror franchise. And meet Freddy Krueger, the malevolent spirit that's been terrorizing kids since 1984's A Nightmare on Elm Street movie. Well, the first time Jason and Freddy kinda featured together was when Freddy's masked and clawed hands dragged Jason to hell in the final moments of the 1993 movie Jason Goes to Hell, The Final Friday. Then in 2003 arrived Freddy vs. Jason, featuring a full-fledged, blood-curdling clash between the terror icons. This sparked another idea amongst fans, and they wanted to see both Freddy and Jason in a slasher film with the deadite hunter Ash Williams, the legendary action hero of the Evil Dead franchise. New Line Cinema, the production company behind A Nightmare on Elm Street films, even came up with a Freddy vs. Jason vs. Ash concept, but it only happened as a 6-issue comic book series and never got made into a feature film. And let's hear the reasons why it didn't. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Creative restrictions. Bruce Campbell, who famously featured as Ash Williams in Sam Raimi's Evil Dead films, and then in cameos later, has mentioned several times that it was a quick meeting with production house New Line Cinema, following which he decided Freddy vs. Jason vs. Ash is a no-go for him. The studio that distributed Freddy vs. Jason told Campbell that his character Ash cannot finish off either Freddy or Jason, making it seem pointless to Campbell. Speaking in an interview at the San Diego Comic-Con in 2024, Campbell said, and we quote, "These ideas are creatively bankrupt, and I'll tell you why. Freddy vs. Jason vs. Ash, we had a 5-minute conversation with New Line about making that movie, and we were told you cannot kill either one of them, and you cannot have any plot or dialogue that affects the other characters. Only one company has control of this character, where we can only control Ash. Your story has to be really convoluted and terrible, and Ash doesn't get to kill either one of them. It's a silly concept." Speaking at the New York Comic Con in 2017, Campbell had also said that Freddy and Jason walking out unscathed in the film only makes Ash Williams look ineffective. Ash is the good guy of all these horror series. Yeah, so he needs to kill them. He would need to kill them, even if their eyes pop open at the very end and they cut to the credits like they normally do. So Campbell immediately said no because of creative conflicts with New Line Cinema, and the film never went beyond the talking stage. Financial concerns. Creative differences were not the only reason though. Back when Freddy vs. Jason released in 2003, it turned out to be a commercial success. But before that, the movie was in development hell for years because of money issues, and Campbell was pretty frank about the financial prospects of the Freddy vs. Jason vs. Ash movie, and said they would have to split the box office returns with two other franchises, which is not really an appealing idea. So basically, the Evil Dead team will not only get to kill the two baddies, but also have to share the profits, making it less financially attractive to them. At the San Diego Comic-Con, Campbell added, right from the start, it's creatively bankrupt. Economically, now you're splitting the pot with two other partners. Nah, we're good. Earlier in 2016, during an Ask Me Anything session on Reddit, Campbell made similar comments saying, "I'm not really interested in crossovers. One of the main reasons why Ash vs. Jason vs. Freddy didn't come to pass is because we couldn't control any other character other than Ash. Not to mention, you're splitting the proceeds 3 ways with partners you might not want." Legal and rights issues. A 2012 report published by the Bloody Disgusting website stated that sometime in 2004, New Line Cinema was looking forward to acquiring the rights for Ash Williams from Sam Raimi. In fact, they were in the final talks with the Evil Dead franchise creator. But apparently, instead of handing over Ash Williams to New Line Cinema, Sam Raimi went ahead and announced that he would be producing a remake of his iconic 1981 The Evil Dead movie, signifying he would continue to hold the rights for this character. Well, that explains why New Line Cinema was not open to the idea of Ash Williams killing Freddy and Jason, the two characters they own. The Sam Raimi co-produced reboot finally came out in 2013, and Campbell's character did feature in a special appearance in the last scene, saying Ash Williams' signature catchphrase, "Groovy." Franchise directions. In addition to all these, another reason why Freddy vs. Jason vs. Ash was never reattempted is because the three franchises went in different directions. The Evil Dead films, for example, continued with the Evil Dead reboot and then Evil Dead Rise, but without Ash Williams as the protagonist. The character did feature in the movies, but only in brief cameos. However, Campbell said he wouldn't mind returning as the protagonist if Raimi comes back to the director's chair. The Evil Dead team are currently said to be working on future movies and a possible series. Meanwhile, Sean S. Cunningham, who started the Friday the 13th 13th franchise said in 2024 that there will be no new movie for at least a few years, as studios are hesitant to invest in the franchise. But Team Friday the 13th are exploring a new prequel series titled Crystal Lake that's expected to release on Halloween 2025. And as for the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, the last time we saw Freddy Krueger in a movie was in the 2010s remake of Wes Craven's original one. Since then, the franchise has been planning potential films and a TV series, but nothing has materialized yet. Alternate Media, the comic series. Freddy vs. Jason vs. Ash was conceptualized as a sequel to Freddy vs. Jason, and New Line Cinema had already created a whole official treatment for the film. When the movie didn't take off, the treatment, written by New Line Cinema's Jeff Katz, inspired a comic book series published by Dynamite Entertainment and DC Comics. This storyline too served as a sequel to Freddy vs. Jason and the Evil Dead trilogy. The comic book series, which was published between November 2007 and March 2008, was penned by James Kuhorik, with illustrations by Jason Craig. This was followed by another 6-issue limited series in 2009, titled Freddy vs. Jason vs. Ash, The Nightmare Warriors, by the same team. It simply continued the previous storyline, but as a bonus, brought in new characters from the Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the 13th movies. Proposed storyline of Freddy vs. Jason vs. Ash. The Ultimate Horror Trio never got to confront each other on the big screen, but they did have a massive showdown in comic book pages. Freddy vs. Ash vs. Jason comics, based on the canceled movie screenplay by Jeff Katz, gives us an idea on how things would have unfolded in the movie. And here's a quick recap of the comic storyline. Freddy vs. Jason vs. Ash is set 5 years after the events of the Freddy vs. Jason movie, and 16 years after the Evil Dead Army of Darkness film. The Freddy vs. Jason movie ended with a bloody showdown between the two killers. Jason appeared to be the winner, but Freddy's spirit continued to linger, trapped within Jason's mind. In 2008, Laurie Campbell and Will Rollins, the former protagonist of Freddy vs. Jason, decided to return to Crystal Lake for closure when they're hunted down and killed by Jason, who lives in a dilapidated shack in the adjoining woods, where he brings back the decomposed corpses. Freddy manipulates Jason and puts him in a trance-like state, giving him visions of himself and Jason's dead mother, Pamela. Freddy and the false Pamela manipulate Jason into believing that if he retrieves the Necronomicon, aka the Book of the Dead, hidden in the cellar inside the Voorhees home, the mute slasher will become worthy to his mother. He'll finally be a real boy. Freddy also falsely promises Jason that Freddy would fix his disfigurement after getting the book, but it's actually Freddy who wants the Necronomicon to resurrect himself. Meanwhile, the newly opened S-Mart Supercenter in Forest Green, aka Crystal Lake, requires an experienced person to handle the rookie employees. As luck would have it, Ash Williams is dispatched from Detroit to train the new joinees. The moment Ash pulls into the S-Mart parking lot, Jason makes his first ever appearance in years and leaves a bloody mess behind, killing 3 teenagers. Naturally, Ash Williams begins to investigate the mysterious killer who's been terrorizing Crystal Lake, and somehow comes to the conclusion that it's the work of a deadite, an undead killer, because of the presence of the Necronomicon in town. He heads to the Voorhees house to dig out the book himself, but realizes that his colleagues are already at the Voorhees house for a party, before the house gets demolished in the coming days. Ash sneaks into the cellar and gets a hold of the book, but hears screams and shrieks upstairs. Jason has also arrived at the Voorhees house searching for the book, and he turns the party into a bloodfest, killing almost everyone present there. A few survivors escape with Ash, with the book in their possession, but Jason tracks them to the S-Mart Supercenter. The mute slasher goes on another killing spree, retrieves the book, and brings it back to his shack. Freddy then uses the Necronomicon to escape Jason's mind jail, brings himself back to the living world, and enhances his dream manipulation powers. In the meantime, Ash and the surviving S-Mart employees relocate to a suburban cottage in the woods to plan their next move against Jason. When Ash falls asleep, Freddy pays him a visit in the dream world, where the cottage has been transformed into the old Novi cabin of the Evil Dead films. At the same time, Jason intervenes, asking Freddy to fulfill his promises, when Freddy resurrects all of Jason's old victims from the Friday the 13th movies, busying him in a fight with the Deadites. Ash and his colleagues take the opportunity to escape into the woods, but are soon confronted by Freddy, who's even more powerful in the living world now, having read the blood-inked pages of the Necronomicon. With his reality-altering powers, Freddy converts the Voorhees home into Ash's beloved former home, 1428 Elm Street, and a 3-way battle between Freddy, Jason, and Ash begins. As the showdown intensifies, the house is destroyed, and the trio are forced to take their fight on the frozen Crystal Lake. During the ensuing battle, Ash and his colleague Caroline use the Necronomicon to open a portal and force Freddy into the dimension of the Deadites, locking away the supernatural killer. Meanwhile, Ash's Oldsmobile crashes into Jason and seals him beneath the frozen Crystal Lake, along with the Book of the Dead. As Ash and Caroline drive away from the bloody mess at Crystal Lake, trapped underneath the icy water, Jason opens his eyes. In the sequel comic series, writer Jeff Katz Katz said he wanted to continue the events as a fanboy story. In the storyline, the mute killer Jason and the supernatural murderer Freddy are resurrected by the US government with the intention of exploiting their powers. But when Freddy and Jason couldn't be controlled, Ash Williams and his team of Nightmare Warriors came to the rescue. The Nightmare Warriors are inspired by DC Comics' Justice League superheroes. In the comics, they're the survivors of Freddy and Jason's murderous assaults, basically characters from A Night on Elm Street and Friday the 13th films. This storyline ends with another epic showdown, leading Jason to getting stabbed in the head with a shard of glass, and Freddy absorbing his soul to become all the more powerful. But the Necronomicon deems Freddy worthless and strips him of his powers when Ash blasts him into the dimension of the Deadites. Quite a story, huh? Marvelous verdict. So folks, that was a glimpse into what could have been the ultimate horror movie, with the Terror Titans and the Deadite Killer coming together in an epic clash. But the film Freddy vs. Jason vs. Ash died in its tracks years ago, primarily because of creative differences between Bruce Campbell and New Line Cinemas, and it's highly unlikely that it'll be reattempted anytime soon. But you know what? Never say never. That's it for now, people. Thanks for watching. If you liked our video, please give us a shout out, and stay tuned for more marvelous content. See you super soon. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks, everyone.